Produced by Victoire, the Masters of Wrestling gives a special thanks to Jesse Hernandez and the EWF Empire Wrestling Federation, and to each of you, our loyal viewers. And now, on with the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Power and Glory, the podcast. This is where you come to discover the truth about professional wrestling. And there's no two better gentlemen to discuss that than my two co-stars. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the Master Amir, along with my co-stars, former WWE superstars, both of them, but also my co-star to the top left, Paul Roma, a former WCW superstar also. Paul, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Always great to be here. Thanks for the intro.
And of course, at the bottom of our screen, our resident celebrity cheesemaker. He is cheesecake maker, rather. He is Mr. Mario Mancini.
Great. It's great. You don't want to say hello to all the people. They subscribe to us, they come on, they're avid fans, and he has nothing to say.
Yeah, he's saluting right now.
Does he have
saluting.
Cheesecake in his mouth or something? I mean, what's going on?
I think he's finishing one. Mario, okay. Did you visit the Barefoot Contessa? She's up in your neck of the woods in the Hamptons. Have you seen her this week?
Listen, she begged me to go there. She was stuck on a recipe, but I was too busy. I had to I bought a new plaque remover, and I was doing my teeth, so I couldn't go see her.
Oh, okay. Well, that just goes to show you, Paul, the ego of this man. This is the Barefoot Contessa. For those of you who don't know, go and check that out. I'm sure the wives of the fans of this show will enjoy our show. But Paul,
I cheered her up, though. I went and bought her a pair of shoes.
Oh, you did?
She's not barefoot anymore.
Okay. You didn't happen to show these shoes to Tony Atlas, did you?
No, I did not show him the Tony Atlas. You know what I mean? I did not. I miss Tony, man. I got to call him this weekend. You got to set aside a couple hours, though.
Yeah, I like Tony.
Yeah.
But like a hemorrhoid, I like when he goes away, too.
oh, darn, Paul. I was in the post office today, and I thought, remember Paul was telling you he was in the post office, there was a guy in front from the back. I thought it was Tony Atlas, man. Same shape, same head shape, same side.
Really?
I was like, at first I was gonna say, hey.
So he's a big guy.
He was a big guy, yeah.
At first, Amir was gonna go, hey, and I'll pull your pecker.
No, I'll leave that to Pat.
May you rest in peace.
Yeah, may rest in peace. Paul, what do the fans need to do before we speak another word?
Probably the hardest thing that they'll ever have to do in their lives is push that subscribe button. I know it's difficult. But you couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do it.
Do it.
If you're on this show, you're listening to this show, you're participating in this show, why would you not hit that subscribe button? Doesn't make any sense.
And it's free. It's absolutely free. For those of you that have fear that if you touch the subscribe button, it's going to charge you, you're wrong. It's free. For now, it's free. But also make sure that you hit the like, and more importantly than anything, share this with your friends and family. We have made the proclamation. Paul, you made it earlier this year. Mario, you were witness to that. And I've said it before. We want to be the #1 wrestling podcast on YouTube. And we need all of your help to do that, okay? Because you're coming along with the ride with us, okay? So you're included in this. So make sure that you do that. And, of course, submit your comments.
Right, and wouldn't you want to be with us from the beginning and say that, you know what, you were with us the entire time?
That's right. You want to ride that wave with us. Hey, gentlemen.
Why not?
Gentlemen, I want to give an announcement to everybody because this morning we got confirmation. WWE legendary referee Mike Chioda will be joining us on the podcast, which will air on June the 22nd of this coming month. So June the 22nd, look out for Mike Chioda, who will be joining us. And of course, next week, not Frank Shamrock. Yes, Frank Shamrock.
Frank Shamrock.
Being confused with Ken, who is not Paul's brother.
But you never know. You never know what's going to come out.
Mm-mm.
Are we related? Are we not?
Well, Paul, are you saying you're going to drop a potential bombshell right here
Well, you know
live?
what? There are some things that people don't know. You never know.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? You never know, people. You never know.
All right.
Mancini knows, but you
Nancy.
never know. Yeah.
Well, listen, there was years ago where they thought maybe that Roma and I were related. We were
Champions. They're not born in the gym. It starts from the inside and it works its way out. Do you feel it more difficult to obtain muscle? Are you tired or perhaps depressed? Then there's a solution. Our brand new partner and sponsor, Care Aesthetics of La Quinta, are here to help you get restored to optimal health. Just use the contact information in this video and schedule your free consultation. Be sure to mention the name of the podcast, whether that be Power and Glory, Styling, Masterclass, or Hey Roma, when doing so. We wish you all the best in your road to optimized health. And now, back to the show.
thought maybe that Roma and I were related. We were sitting one time in a restaurant and he was eating a piece of boiled chicken and I was eating a piece of carrot cake, and they said, no, there's no way they're related at all. So that went by the wayside, our blood relation there. Although, we might as well be, but that carrot cake kind of did me, and I should have ate the boiled chicken. Then we could have went as
chicken.
Could have went as the Roma brothers.
Yeah, you guys have such a tremendous friendship. It's remarkable to see here. What are you guys coming up on, by the way, in terms of years of this friendship now?
Well, this is 41 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny because WWF Retro, they posted the greatest jobbers in pro wrestling history, and on the cover of that, on the screen cover for the whatever you call post, was SD Jones and Paul Roma shaking hands. And I'm like, okay. And I scrolled down, and of course I saw my name there and everything, and I'm like, okay. And one guy commented, he goes, I always thought Paul Roma would have been a bigger deal. And I replied to his comment he was.
Right.
He was with the Young Stallions, then he went with Power and Glory, and then he went to the WCW as one of the Four Horsemen, and then, Pretty Wonderful and with Arn Anderson and everything. And everybody just started hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. But what I enjoyed the most was this was the quintessential, and I enlarged the picture. I made it bigger because I remember so clearly, like it was yesterday, that Paul Roma, that Paul Roma, and that I remember, and I started laughing because I enlarged the picture, and that vein was going across his chest near his shoulder, and I was looking at the one that used to come up in his forehead, but he was smiling. That usually came up when he was mad, that forehead, that vein would start popping out of his forehead,
Yeah.
So, I really enjoyed look, and that was before SD got in shape. SD at one point got into tremendous, but I would put him next to Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas any day. That's how good of a shape SD got in at one point. But it was before he got into shape. But yeah, I enjoyed looking at that picture. You know what I mean? Because that was, he had the curly perm. You know what I mean? He was like he was rocking the curly perm and everything. And I started remembering the conversations and everything and everything else. So,
did I have my jeans on?
I don't think so. No.
No.
It was. But yeah, Amir, it's been a long road. It's a long time. It's a long time.
And you know what? It didn't go by that fast.
Yeah, not that fast, but it could have went a little slower, in my opinion.
What's the recipe? What's the recipe for something like that? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that have lifelong friendships, but those who are hoping they can, what's the recipe to keep that friendship like that?
It's easy. Roma picks up the phone, and goes, "Hey, this is what I was thinking," and I go, "Oh, okay, Roma." He goes, "Okay." Yeah,
That's it.
that's it, man.
Just agree.
Okay. Well, here's the truth though. Here's the truth. And you got to be careful. You got to be careful because when he looks at a scenario and he starts predicting something, you really have to listen closely because more than often he doesn't get the joy out of it. He doesn't get gassed over it. He doesn't get happy about it or proud. The majority of the time he'll look at you and go, "I told you.
Hmm.
What did I tell you? I
Hmm.
told you this would happen." That, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he'll say it even when he's setting up storylines and he's talking to the guys and they're like, I don't think he'll go, listen to me, was I ever wrong? And they have to look at him and say, no,
Hmm.
no, you're not.
Right.
So and he's like, then why aren't you gonna listen to me now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Roma, since the first day that I sat in the car with him and hit the road, he was always a guy, and probably attributed to his father. He was always with a guy with a lot of wisdom,
Hmm.
a ton of wisdom, a ton.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's amazing because you mentioned something there, Mario, about the way Paul, because I know he's very creative. Paul, you're an extremely creative guy, but most creative people have that tendency to go up and down with their emotions because that's why they're artists, right? You hear the story quite often, right? I would put you in the same category as an artist. But you don't have that artist temperament. Like Mario said, you're not going to get overly excited about something. It's just going to come to you and you're going to say it and then, yeah, I told you so, and that's it, sort of thing, without arrogance, of course. But so that's an interesting. Have you always been like that, Paul? Have you always had that uncanny ability to just see something and know how to turn it around into something creative?
Well, I don't know so much about that.
Mhm.
But it's how can I say this without sounding really off the wall? And I'm going to go back to something that Mario said.
Mhm.
Um, you know when they say people can see the future?
Mhm.
I had this thing called the look, and the look was when something flashed at me in a certain way. I knew whether good or bad harm was going to come to that thing, no matter what it is, was the person or not.
Mhm.
Um, and so I stopped second guessing myself. I
Mhm.
mean, I would at times nowadays, and I go, "Why did you second guess yourself? Do you know to go with your first thought?" And I reprimand myself because people should go with their first thought. It's usually the right thought, whether
Mhm.
it's answering a question that's, what I'm saying, like a multiple choice question. Go with your first thought. Stop second guessing yourself. You're smart. Going back to what Mario said, the key to the relationship that we had, or still have, I should say, to this day, is the foundation of always being there for one another.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Mhm.
That's where even man woman relationship, or whatever the case may be, even other friendships,
Mhm.
you second guess. Like somebody brings something about Mario to me. Now Mario did this and he did that, and he's this and that. I listen to what they say. I evaluate what they say. I evaluate what I know about him. And then I know whether it's true that he could possibly have said or done that,
Mhm.
or it's total bullcrap,
Right.
that there's just no way in the world.
Yeah.
So many people are so quick to jump on another person's side, on their bandwagon. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Well, what if they're right? Who cares?
Mhm.
That's your friend, or
Right.
that's your husband or your wife or whatever. You know what I mean? Don't be so quick to jump sides.
Yeah.
Either you stick by somebody, and whether they're right or wrong or not,
Hmm.
You have to stand by them.
Hmm.
You take the good with the bad. But a lot of people aren't willing to do that. They're
Yeah.
not willing to take the good with the bad
Hmm.
or the bad with the good, however way you want to say it. I want to be on the right side. But that is your friend,
Yeah.
right? If it's
Yeah.
truly your friend,
Yeah.
you go down with the ship.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just how it is.
What
Go down with the ship, man.
I
You know,
forgot what the scenario was that actually happened. It was something really outlandish, and somebody went to Roma. I wish I can remember what it was. And they said Mario, and Roma just looked at him and go, "I could tell you right now, impossible.
Hmm.
Just impossible. That's no way." And he was right, but he is right because you know what? I'm so thankful. I really am because of social media, because of YouTube, because of so many ways to get so many things from 40, 50, 100 years ago. I'm so thankful that he had that tough talk with me with Lisa Sliwa. And I think of that every now and then. I'm like, you know what? That would be on YouTube when I was on Regis and Kathy Lee, and there's Lisa Sliwa freaking giving me a hip toss.
Yeah.
And I'm taking a bump on national TV, right? That was a monumental moment when that happened, and he's like, "It's bad enough that you got to do what you got to do now,
Hmm.
and you go there every week. You got to go there and get that, and now you're going to do it for a woman? What are you, crazy? Are you out of your mind?" And
Yeah.
he just got me so tanked up that I just didn't take the train. I didn't just blew it off. I just didn't show up.
Yeah.
And Gelb ended up calling me, trying to swear at me, and that's when I said, "What if I get on a train, come to Manhattan, and rip your spine right out of you?" You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
he,
Yeah.
he hung up. He hung
Yeah.
up on me. But
Yeah.
I think about times like that. Like if
Mhm.
Roma wasn't around,
Mhm.
it would have been like 5 o'clock in the morning. I would have been on that train. Oh, I'm going to Regis and Kathy Lee. He made damn sure I didn't
Yeah.
show
No.
up.
He was looking out for you, and
was.
rightfully so. Yeah. Exactly.
I
And
was,
and stuff like that. You touched on a few things there. One of the things that's jumped out to me was, again, people making up their own minds, trusting their gut instincts. And Mario, you brought up something there that always rubs me the wrong way. You said that retro thing that WWE had put out, whatever department that was. Obviously, it wasn't directed by any, higher ups. It was just a media department. But the fact that they had Paul, they had you on there, and what was it called? The Greatest Jobbers, Mario?
Yeah.
See, that's what's been misled, and I want all our viewers to understand this once and for all, definitively. That man that you see at the top left-hand corner of your screen, don't even put him in the same breath as Jobber. He is a former WCW Tag Team Champion, member of the Four Horsemen. Like I said, the accolades go on and on and on and on. I don't know who started this nonsense, Paul, but it's annoying me just because
it
I
should.
know I know the
It
You
caliber.
shouldn't.
know, I'm
It shouldn't.
shocked.
It
I'm
shouldn't. It doesn't
shocked.
annoy me.
I'm going to be honest with you, and it's not because I'm so close to him. I'm shocked. Every time they put his name in there, I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Like you know what? For a brief time, for what, a year, and then he started going over. I mean, he was not a jobber. It's like
No.
I even disagree when they have Jimmy Powers in there.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I'm like, I don't agree with that. I don't
Mm.
agree with that either. You know what I mean?
No.
So it's
It
like
it doesn't bother. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
it's strange.
Yeah.
Not in the least. Listen,
Yeah.
if that's the case, I'm still amongst a lot of good people. There are a lot of good guys in there.
Yep. Yep. The good guys. And touching on the other point, I wanted to talk about creativity because I did want to talk a little bit about the Doctor of Style, Slick.
Huh.
Even though Mario is not too fond here, or what I've heard, but nonetheless, nonetheless,
It's got nothing to do with Slick. I like Slick.
okay. This.
Listen,
Yeah, as a person.
Slick's resume is quite impressive. Do you know what his resume is? Do you know who he walked down the aisle? Can you name everybody he walked down the aisle?
Let's start. Let's start at the top. I know Hacksaw Butch Reed, the natural Butch Reed. I know Butch Reed.
Yeah,
I know Akeem. I know the Big Boss Man. I know Power and Glory, Hercules and Paul Roma. Kamala, the Ugandan giant. Who else did he come out with? I'm drawing a blank. I'm drawing a blank. Um, help
Tito
me out, Mario.
Manzini.
Help me out, Mario. Who else?
Rick Martel, the model Rick Martel,
That's right. Yeah.
the Warlord, the Barbarian, the Sheik and Volkov. Uh, I don't know who Lord Humongous is. I don't know who that is. Boris Zukov.
Wow.
Yep, Boris
Now
Zukov.
here's a guy that came in, I guess, to join Sheik and Volkov, or be one of those guys that are over. And there's a guy, unfortunately, nice guy. There's a guy, unfortunately, that ended up being a jobber. Unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Sweetheart of a guy.
yeah, very nice guy. You know what? I got to give it to you, Amir. You got most of them. Those were the only names you didn't get.
Okay.
And, and of course, we got his dad. Which is the reason why he got into the wrestling business, because his dad was quite the wrestler. So
Who was Slick's dad? Who was his dad?
his dad was Coco B. No, I'm only kidding. Wasn't Coco B. Wade. Um, his dad, his dad was Rufus R. Jones.
Okay. Rufus R. Jones.
R. Jones, who born July 4th, 1933,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, he trained in Boston, and he went to the St. Louis Wrestling Club. He was in Atlanta. Um, he was in the NWA Central States. He was the heavyweight champion. Uh, he was a tag team champion, NWA North American Tag Team Championship.
Wow.
He worked at Georgia Championship Wrestling, Mid Atlantic. He's the World Negro Heavyweight Champion one time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Uh,
impressive.
yeah, so he's in the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2018.
Oh.
So that would be,
Shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Rufus R. Jones was the father of Slick, and
Yeah.
Slick was just he is a heck of a guy, heck of a showman, really nice guy.
Yeah.
Enjoy seeing him, and so does Roma at the when he's at the conventions. He's still got the
Yeah.
cane and everything, and
And he's a preacher.
um,
He's a preacher now. Yeah. That's
Well,
right.
he was when he was our manager.
Really?
And if this is all true, he was catching a lot of slack from his congregation, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
because he was in wrestling and he
Mm-hmm.
was a preacher.
Yeah.
So he did go through, from my understanding, you know, a bit of a hard time, like I
Yeah.
said, because he was doing something that I guess they didn't feel was right, that he should be
Right.
doing on the side.
Yeah, it was interesting. When you say on the side, he was a prominent figure. I mean, he was, it looked like to us, at least, the spectator, he was full time because he was always there.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
no, don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying is like the way he spoke,
yeah,
you know, I personally didn't know what his full time job was. To me, it was more him being like a preacher.
right.
To me, him coming in was just him coming in.
Yeah.
You know what I
Oh, I
mean? That
see.
wasn't his
Yeah,
full time job.
right.
Being a preacher was his full time job. Again, you know, didn't know if he was going to stay around or not.
Did he talk about his faith to you guys backstage?
No, I would say no.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
would say no.
Now you mentioned Mario, you mentioned about, and you guys mentioned about his congregation not being happy about that one song that he sung, his entrance theme song. Yeah, that would have been questionable in a church, some of the lyrics that he had in there. But one of the things I found interesting about Slick is because some managers are tailor-made for the person that they represent. Paul Bearer and The Undertaker, right there. Okay. Slick was never tailor-made per se I mean, if you put him with the Big Boss Man or the Barbarian, or even if you put him with Power and Glory, story-wise, it doesn't really tie in because it's not like he was like I
It
remember
wasn't supposed to tie in.
okay, it wasn't supposed
Slick was never supposed to tie in.
Okay.
See, the whole problem that Vince had with Power and Glory was that he needed us to be heels,
Right.
right? And everything he tried in the beginning didn't work.
Okay.
Even bringing Slick out with us did not work, right?
Yeah.
So we thought it was originally supposed to be Bobby Heenan, because
Which would.
Bobby Heenan obviously had Hercules under, in his stable. So it made perfect sense that Bobby Heenan would be Power and Glory's manager.
Yeah.
Well, Vince never, how can I say this without contradicting things? Even though Vince approved Power and Glory, because that's what I came up with, he didn't approve Power and Glory deep in his heart.
Right. Yeah.
Vince did everything he could not to make Power and Glory work. So let's give him Slick and instead of Bobby Heenan, because you give us Bobby Heenan, we're over.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
right. So now
sure.
we got to go into, well, let's figure out, let's do something. We'll use the Rockers. Okay.
Yeah.
So they used the Rockers, and that created a lot of heat.
Yeah.
Now he had a team. What does he do with this team? I mean, we're over.
Yeah.
According to the Hart Foundation, according to Mr. Perfect, according to all the guys in the locker room, holy cow. What a tag team, Power and Glory. Oh my God, you guys are over. You guys are hot.
Yeah.
So he couldn't beat us. So he took us apart.
Yeah.
He kept beating us and trying to beat the big guy, which is Hercules. But I kept intervening and saying, no. If you beat the big guy, you beat the team. So just beat me.
Yeah.
I could get beat all day long and it doesn't hurt us. But you beat 6'3", 275, you beat our team.
Yeah.
So he went along with it, couldn't argue it really. And then finally they said, well, let's split these guys up and we'll beat Hercules that way. Paul doesn't care. You know what I mean? He can't come in and save him now.
Yeah.
So that's what they end up doing. And that's where I end up telling them to stick it. And I walked away.
Yeah, it was such a travesty because, and as you were talking, Paul, it made me think of Power and Glory. If you transported them, say, 5 years into the future, and you'd have been around in 1997 in the WWF, Power and Glory, and Mario, I don't know if you agree with me. Do you think that Power and Glory still would have worked on the cusp of the Attitude Era and even into the Attitude Era?
Well, let me tell you something. They would have worked even better because let me shock everyone right now. A guy like Roma, he was holding back.
Yeah.
On the microphone, he was holding back. You put Paul Roma in that Attitude Era, he would have been another Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Let me tell you something. Roma's the kind of guy that this is what Roma does. Roma will sit there and he'll take in the atmosphere, right? And he'll watch 10 guys do promos and he'll watch Vince stop him and go, well, I want you to do this and I want you to do that. You should have said this and you should have said that. And Roma will take in every bit of that. And then he'll say to himself, oh, now I know what he wants. I know what I can say and what I can't say. I know what he wants. I've watched all of this. I listened to him talk. I listened to him say what he wants. I know what he wants. Make no mistake. If somebody went up to Roma and said, let it rip. Just let it rip. Whatever you want to say, just say. Just let it go. And you know what? Get on the edge.
Yeah.
Get on the edge. You would have seen it. You would have seen a different guy. You would have. Let me give you a good example, Paul. We only have one match, and imagine this: every TV every night, and imagine this even more escalated than it was. We only have one match of Paul Roma that you could apply to the Attitude Era. Only one. That's his match with Alex Ray.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Imagine him doing that even at a higher level in the Attitude Era, grabbing the microphone and talking, doing that dance around the ring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, he would have been a top heel in that
Yeah.
era. He would have been a top heel because
Yeah.
he could do it. He could
Yeah.
do it. He had no problem. You know, last night I watched Superstar Billy Graham,
Okay.
Dark Side of the Ring, and felt so bad. Because you know everybody ripped them off. Everybody ripped them off. So Hogan ripped them off verbatim. I mean, they showed clips of Superstar Billy Graham going like this.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah, yeah, to the crowd going like that.
Wow.
I mean, he ripped them off to the T.
Sheesh.
And in Billy Graham and Cornette came on, the Ultimate Authority, and said, "Listen, his in-ring skills weren't the greatest, but he had the best promo in the history of the business.
Hmm.
He could talk." And before Billy Graham was a wrestler, he was a preacher.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he'd get up there and go, "Superstar Billy Graham, too sweet to be sour. I got all the power." And he had those big biceps and everything.
Yeah.
And he was selling out Madison Square Garden every month, every month. But Vince Sr. was so hell bent on Bob Backlund that he didn't want to be wrong. And that was his plan, and he was sticking to it.
Hmm.
Well, you went to those big, high-powered promos to almost a whisper when
Yeah.
Bob Backlund would do a promo.
Yeah.
"Well, I'm looking forward to this match, and I really want to." I mean, he put everybody. You gave up Superstar Billy Graham for that.
That's yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like Bob Backlund was the heavyweight champion.
Hmm.
Well, you make Paul Roma the heavyweight champion and see what kind of promo he's going to cut.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Well, I'll
reason
tell
You
you,
know what I
Graham
mean?
was great. Graham was great. I remember seeing him in Arizona, first time I saw the guy. And I looked at him, I was like, yeah, this guy's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. He always seemed cool to
He's
me.
got it. Yeah, he's got it. He
Yeah.
just has that it factor.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Just walk.
Yeah.
And he's got the it factor.
It's true. Some guys just have it. But what you're saying there, no, the reason it just struck me now is I've never considered Power and Glory in another time. But when I look at Power and Glory, the beauty behind that team for any naysayers is the fact that it fit in with the golden era perfectly, right? But you were still, in fact, the Power and Glory was ahead of its time. It was kind of like the NWO. You could have even fit into the NWO because you were reality based. You weren't fictitious policemen or giants from Africa or, you know what I mean, boats or whatever, right? You were real guys, just powerful, and one was all about the glory, right? So you could fit in with your styles and with your gimmick, your gear. It was perfect for any era. It's strange how it's interesting though that Mario you bring up the comparison how Vince Sr. shot himself in the foot with Billy Graham to take Bob Backlund. Vince did similar to with Power and Glory. I think he shot himself in the foot, like you said.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, shot himself in the foot. Now back to Slick.
Without a doubt.
Back to
But,
Slick quickly.
yep. Yep.
Was he an in-ring wrestler? Had he been trained to be an in-ring wrestler?
No,
Okay.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
no,
Okay.
no.
So he was.
Going back to that for 1 second, you got to remember something, Amir. At 10:10 p.m., 7:10 p.m. your time,
Mhm.
I will be in my recliner. And that is when the first pitch will happen because the New York Yankees are playing the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Dodgers. That's right.
Right.
3 games, isn't it?
Yeah, I am that guy
Okay.
that will just sit in my recliner, listen and watch the game, and just scroll and scroll and scroll. And I'm telling you right now, on my grandson that is in that next room,
Mhm.
when power in any time, the first thing out of a fan's mouth, whenever power and glory is mentioned,
Mhm.
what is mentioned immediately after that is the greatest finish in pro wrestling.
Yep, I can't argue with that. That is, like I
for the
said,
tag for a tag team. For a tag.
yes, quintessential best finisher of all time, and you can
Yeah,
take that to the bank. Anybody watching
yeah,
this, there has never been a greater finisher than the Powerplex. Never.
yeah,
That was it. I
yeah.
mean, it was just. I remember watching it as a kid. And I was in awe by it, Paul. I just remember watching it and I was like, oh, he's going up and you just flew. I mean, even Superfly Jimmy Snooker couldn't touch you on that one. That,
Yeah,
that
Well,
was,
it took two people, I mean, it was all about timing. Look, we
yeah,
just gelled. We
yeah,
gelled,
yeah.
just the finisher alone. They should have wanted to keep us running just to see that finishing hole, the
Yeah,
move.
yeah.
Think of the pop it would have gotten in today's day and age. Oh my God, they're going up for the finish. Watch this. What timing?
Boom,
Blah, blah,
boom.
blah. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Just,
But often imitated, never duplicated. They
yep.
tried it. Even my students will try it.
Yeah.
And I keep working with them, but they just can't get it yet.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many little, little moments, little the power and glory had. And again, even despite whatever attempts were made to sabotage it at the time, it doesn't matter. It stood the test of time. Power and Glory is still, one of the top tag teams from that era. You can't talk about Legion of Doom without mentioning Power and Glory or the Rockers, or you're all in that same category. So, but interesting about Slick. Now we are still going to try and track him down at some point. Paul and I,
Okay.
we've talked about that in the past.
Yep.
I've reached out to his ministry. I've left a voicemail, so he probably heard it and probably thought, "Oh, I'll call him back another day when I mentioned Paul Roma." Uh, but we reached out, so we're gonna keep on that. Excuse me, gentlemen, because I did contact somebody, and I'm just gonna see if they are gonna be okay. All right, I've got another news for everybody here. Mike McGurk will be joining us. Mike McGurk.
Really?
Do you remember Mike?
Fantastic.
Yep. She just
Yeah.
said, give Paul my best right now. So,
Right back at you. Right back
yep.
at you.
Yep. So Mike McGurk, for those of you who don't know, or for those that do know about the golden era, she was a ring announcer for WWF. She was the quintessential voice for Wrestling Challenge and Superstars of Wrestling for a number of years. She's a very, very nice lady, very down to earth lady. So it's
Very
going to be an
nice.
absolute pleasure. Also, there you go. So another bombshell for you there. Now, on to matters at hand, business at hand, wrestling today. Last week, gentlemen, TNA, the new TNA champion is Trick Williams, an NXT superstar. Paul, you and I talked about Trick. I got the opportunity to work with Trick along with McCallion and Slade at a TNA taping. Trick was a nice guy, really down to earth guy. I wish him all the best, and I'm happy he's the TNA champion. But where does this leave TNA? TNA have just dropped the belt to an NXT superstar, essentially saying that their top TNA guy can't cut it, Joe Hendry. And now TNA is the TNA World Title is being sported on WWE TV. Do you think, gentlemen, that this spells the end for TNA?
Mr. Mancini, would you like to touch on this first, or you want me to go?
I want you to go.
Okay. Well, I'm going to just make it short, sweet, and to the point. If I was a gambling man, which I am not,
Mhm.
I would put my car on the fact that that's the move that's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're going to just engulf it.
Engulf TNA? Okay.
Yeah.
Mario, what do you think from a business perspective? Can TNA basically come back after this, after, letting their title? I mean, I know it's all planned, right? But perception is reality. Do you think they can come back from this?
They can come back from it. I mean, personally, I like TNA.
Mhm.
Um, I haven't seen TNA in a while. I used to enjoy TNA.
Wait a minute, Mark. Hold on. Whoa, 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 whoa.
We
Hold
yeah.
on a second here. Do you
particularly
know? I'm
when I
talking
was
about
younger.
I'm talking about TNA wrestling, Mario.
Oh, 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 oh. Um, uh, um,
Oh my gosh.
you know what? I've had such a streak with these podcasts, and I have stuck my chest out so many times on Power and Glory and Hey Roma and other podcasts that when Mario Mancini's on the podcast, all you're gonna get is the truth.
Yep.
I don't watch TNA. I don't even know who these guys are.
Okay.
I have no idea. The first time I ever heard of them was about 3 minutes ago when you mentioned their names.
But you know
Okay.
what TNA is, though, for sure.
No, he
I
knows.
do. I know what TNA is. I
Just
do.
making sure.
And listen, I started talking about that, but Amir cut me off and
Well,
reminded me it was
No,
wrestling.
I'm glad he did.
Roma. I never considered it wrestling, but I guess you know it's a name of a wrestling company, and I'm familiar with. But you know, unfortunately, because of you know maybe some other influences might have right now. I was thinking of the other TNA. I just didn't know.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't.
Gotcha.
We understand here. We totally
Yeah.
understand, Mario.
Well, all I can say on a professional level, and I'm going to take Paul Roma's I'm going to take Paul Roma's stance on this. The reason why you become so successful is you take a guy and you mold them from the bottom up and you build storylines around him until he reaches a pinnacle. And if he's that good and he's putting butts in the seats, that's when you put a strap around him. But we have been never been impressed when a company takes somebody from the WWE or NXT that they don't want anymore
Mhm.
and they put a belt around them. You know, now you can make an argument and go, well, but that was back in the 80s. So Vince snagged King Kong Bundy. He snagged Hogan from Vern Gagne. He snatched Randy Savage down in wherever, North Carolina. He grabbed a bunch of guys from Minnesota. He took all the big names from all the other territories to cripple them, and he put them all in his company. I get it.
Mhm.
You know, Macho Man was already Macho Man. Ravishing Rick Rude was already Ravishing Rick Rude. I get that. But he made them even bigger stars. It's like I don't know. I'm a purist.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like you know, take somebody, bring him in, you know, from the independent circuit. He hasn't been on TV. Build him up, and you know, and give him a push.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know. That's just me. I don't. You know, because you're yourself, Amir.
Mhm.
You couldn't mention. Here's a good example. You couldn't mention the TNA champion without mentioning NXT. How many times?
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Exactly. It's you know, for me it'd be the equivalent of saying back in the day in WCW and WWE. It'd be like the WCW guy come into WWE and taking the title from the WWE champion. You've basically killed WWE. You've killed it. I mean, you
Well, yeah.
have.
I mean, the wrestler himself. By what you said, I love guys like that.
Mhm.
Down to earth. They're humble. They're thankful to be where they are. They have respect from his own peers that are his equals to the guys that set up the ring.
Yeah.
Those are the beautiful people in the wrestling business.
Yeah. Yeah. And Trick is definitely one of them. Like I said, Trick,
Yeah.
you know, for being the top guy in NXT, definitely the breakout star. He'll be on the main roster in no time. But to see the humility in that man, the genuine human being that he was just so kind and courteous. Just you know, you don't expect it when the guy's at the top. This is a guy who took the time to come. You know, he was, you know, more than happy chat and, hang out and share ideas and thoughts and stuff like that. And so I was really happy for him. I was just shocked with this whole thing. I mean, I understand, obviously, it's just TV. They're doing a TV product here. I think, obviously this wrestling fan age are far different from the golden era in the 90s. If this was the wrestling fans from the late 90s or early 90s, TNA would be dead right now. It'd be over, finished. No one would take
Well,
that company seriously anymore. So I don't know how it's going to stand today. Much like the two of you, I watch highlights here and there. That's about it. Unless I'm on the card, I'm not interested. But that's just
Well,
me.
yeah, let me run something by you. So in our small company, PAPW,
Mhm.
we have our belts and we have our champions. My number one rule is if you go to another organization to work, which
Mhm.
all of our people do, everybody,
Yeah.
switches in and out. I will not be another company's champion.
Right.
And what I tell my students, if you hold a belt and you get beat at another organization, you will lose the belt immediately when you get back here.
Yeah.
Because if they can beat you, what does that say about all of our other challengers here?
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Exactly what I was thinking, Paul. All right. You've built up a guy, Joe Hendry, from my neck of the woods back over in, he's from Scotland. You build him up like he's the hottest thing. He loses to Randy Orton at WrestleMania, and then he loses at the next pay-per-view for NXT to Trick Williams, his TNA title. Where do you go from there? Where's your comeback story? I mean, you just trashed the
Oh,
hottest. You just basically trashed the hottest thing in TNA, and that's it.
I don't know.
So
I don't know what they have on their minds, and I'm not going to burn the night, the with the night light or the night candle,
nope,
just to figure it out.
nope.
We'll just see where it falls, right?
We'll
See
we'll
if we were on the cusp, if we were right.
we'll see what falls, and we'll invite all of you to write in and let us know your thoughts. But I know that Mario is just dying. He's just dying to get off and check out this baseball game that's coming up here. What is it? The Los Angeles? What is it? The New York
The
Yankees?
Dodgers and the Yankees.
The Dodgers?
yeah, that's in 3 hours and 10 minutes. But I got to tell you, listen, I wish I would throw it all away. I wouldn't go to law school for a day, not for one day. If I had the opportunity to run an NXT like 20 years ago, it's so unfair. It's still unfair. Now, don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
There are a lot of Crash Davises in this world, and there's nothing wrong with that. And baseball is the first love of my life. So I will always use baseball where, you know what? A guy can turn around and go, well, what did you do for a living before you retired? He said, oh, I was a professional baseball player. And I'll say, oh, for what? For who? The Durham Bulls. Well, you know what? That's a AAA club. It's professional baseball. He's not lying. He just didn't play for the Yankees or the Red Sox. He played for the Durham Bulls for 22 years.
Mhm.
And he, just like Crash Davis, he goes, I've been to the show. I was up in the show for a week, and but he never got back up there. So, if this guy was a big star at NXT. I'm a firm believer that if you're in the farm system, everybody should get a chance to go up.
Mhm.
Everybody should get a chance to go to the show. And why didn't this guy? How come the WWE's not coming out of your mouth? How come they didn't bring him up? How come they didn't give him a spot?
Mhm.
There's a wrestler. Well, I understand the guys keep me abreast of what's happening. Now, at first we were talking about TNA, now we're talking about abreast. They keep me abreast of what's happening in the wrestling world. Okay. And there's this one guy that worked for us, very nice kid. Very nice kid. He was a giant, this kid. He was huge.
Yeah.
And his name was Donovan Dijak. And He was on the independent circuit, and then he went to NXT. And I was so excited for Dijak. I'm like, wow, I'm gonna see him in the WWE. I can't wait. I mean, he worked for Paradise Alley, and I can't wait to see this kid when they bring him up.
Mm.
And I never saw him, but the guys a few years ago, the guy said, Mario, he had a shot, he screwed it up.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So, but how can you screw it up? How much can you screw it up? You know what I mean? Roma will tell you, if they want to push you, they're going to push you. And if you screwed it up, they're going to overlook it and they're going to fix it and they're going to keep pushing you. Listen, when I was wrestling in the New Haven Coliseum one night, and a lot of my high school friends came. So I went, if you're facing the ring, if you go all the way to the left, there's an opening down there
Mm-hmm.
away from the dressing room where you can talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to my friends, and in the lack of a better term, in the vomitory there, the opening, and I looked to the right, and Harley Davidson was walking out to the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Now I saw a big guy in the dressing room with this big beard and this long hair. I really didn't know what he, I introduced myself to him, but he came out as Harley Davidson. And he went to a couple more house shows as Harley Davidson. And you know what? That just didn't work.
All right.
That just didn't work. Did they toss him out? Did they say, well, he went up there and it just wasn't going to work out. It was a bad name, a bad gimmick. Well, you know what? They made sure it worked out because Harley Davidson was Hillbilly Jim.
There you go. Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? So if they really want to and that's what I mean. It's not the wrestling business is not objective. It's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's the pain of it. That's the pain of it. And I hope the trend is changing. And I hope this gentleman in TNA is still young enough that maybe he can make that jump and we will see him with the WWE. But
Yeah.
from what
Be nice.
from what Roma showed me the other day, that Vince is so mad because he thinks Triple H is doing such a bad job. He wants to buy back in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I saw that. I saw that. But now it could be questionable. Will Vince purchase TNA? TNA has been on the selling block many, many times. It's had many owners over the years. Right now, it's owned by a group, I believe, out of Canada, but who knows? Who knows? You never know, especially with Vince. But there is some other Vince stories, but we won't cover that here. But there's some other stuff coming up. Maybe we'll touch on that next week. But I think we've reached the conclusion of this episode, gentlemen. We've reached the top of the hour. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I also want to remind everybody that the Power and Glory podcast t-shirts are available for order. I forgot to announce that at the beginning of the show. They're $45, including shipping and handling. Use the email address in the description of this video. If you want a t-shirt, get in contact with us. We'll provide you details on how to purchase them. And also, if you like this video, if you feel so inclined, make sure you hit that super sticker or super chat. It greatly helps us out to produce this content for you and bring in all these wonderful guests that we have lined up for you. So, any closing comments, gentlemen?
For me, I want to thank everybody that has joined us on the show. Greatly appreciate it. Again, like Amir said, hit that subscribe button. And God bless you all. Be safe, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. And Mario?
Just, you know what? This is such a nice guy. You know what I mean? I want to make sure that everybody supports him. Watch as much TNA as you could. Watch as many videos of TNA as you could. Watch, get really familiar with TNA. You won't be sorry. And not talking about the wrestling.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I was going to double check with you on that one, and also support Trick Williams. Trick Williams, a tremendous
Trick Williams,
tremendous character in the ring and outside of the ring. Until next week, everybody. God bless and keep seeking the power of truth. Take care.